The living room buzzed with cheer as party guests mingled, unaware of the looming storm. I, Sarah, stood by the window contemplating the evening's celebrations. Mark, my husband, laughed with his friends, his carefree demeanor concealing the burden he carried unbeknownst to everyone else. The sound of clinking champagne glasses filled the room, a melody of celebration and camaraderie surrounding me. I felt a warmth spreading in my chest as I watched our circle of friends, enjoying a moment of peace before the storm. Then the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent, interrupting my thoughts and shifting the atmosphere dramatically. Strangers entered, their faces grim and their presence ominous, bringing with them an air of accusation that silenced the room. My heart dropped as one of the newcomers addressed Mark directly, their voice slicing through the stillness with an ominous demand. The room's vibrant colors seemed to drain away as my gaze flicked to Mark, who stood visibly shaken and at a loss for words. "You owe us namui," the voice repeated, each syllable landing heavy, resonating within the stunned silence of the room. The champagne flute slipped from my fingers, shattering the moment as fury and betrayal welled up inside me. I looked around, meeting the eyes of confused and sympathetic friends, the atmosphere thick with disbelief and pity. Mark's silence was deafening, his eyes refusing to meet mine as guilt etched across his face like a scar. I felt my chest tighten, the betrayal searing through the confusion as clear as day. The room's lively chatter had dissolved into a murmur, conversations hushed into whispers about secrets and betrayal. Mark finally spoke, his voice weary as he attempted to explain, each word feeling like an excuse to my ears. I felt trapped in a nightmare, the festive decorations now a haunting reminder of our shattered life. Fury coursed through my veins. I turned to face Mark, demanding truth and answers amidst the restless quiet. His excuses faltered into silence, each stutter deepening the wound, leaving nothing but inadequacies echoing in the room. A friend gently placed a hand on my shoulder, offering silent reassurance amidst the turmoil. I felt Mark's betrayal like a tightening noose, my anger reaching a boiling point as tears threatened to spill. Finally, I turned away, leaving Mark to face the weight of his choices. It was time to reclaim my strength. With each step, I felt fragments of my old life breaking away, beginning a new path unknown but necessary. I stepped outside into the fresh air, the weight of the room lifting, though uncertainty still clung to my skin. In the quiet of the evening, I realized reclaiming my life would mean facing the truth with courage and grit. I knew I had to confront the financial mess that now lay bare, a colossal task yet unavoidable. Friends who stayed behind offered their support, willing to help untangle the knot Mark had left. Legal advice came next, their expertise guiding me through options and potential outcomes. I found a resilience within myself, a determination to rebuild and safeguard my future. Mark's apology followed days later, but I realized forgiveness wasn't an obligation, but a step towards healing. Though the scars of that night remained, I saw a clearer path ahead, one shaped by strength and newfound resolve. It was an ordinary Sunday, with blue skies above our cozy suburb. The kids tugged at my sleeve for pancakes, adding a warmth to the morning hustle. Mark sat at the kitchen table, engrossed in the newspaper, seemingly oblivious to the tension beneath our morning routines. His birthday party planning consumed my thoughts, each detail feeling like a delicate lie I hoped to keep hidden. I let the aroma of fresh coffee and vanilla batter ground me, pretending for a moment that everything was simple. We hugged and kissed, Mark whispering his gratitude, portraying a picture of a normal family in a typical home. The ominous envelopes had started arriving weeks ago, filled with stark black numbers I hadn't dared to open. I ignored the looming envelopes because their stories were too heavy for now, choosing to focus on something simpler. Breakfast preparation took precedence as I layered syrup over golden pancakes, creating normalcy amidst the chaos. While savoring breakfast, unspoken truths lingered between us, awaiting the moment when silence would no longer contain them. The morning rituals masked underlying issues that demanded the spotlight they would inevitably find. Moving to our living room, the soft couch embraced me. I felt the weight of those envelopes in my hands, finally facing them. I peeled open one of the envelopes, the numbers inside revealing truths I was unprepared to handle. The enormity of our financial troubles hit me. Reality crashed over me, altering the room's warmth to a chill. I placed the papers down, trying to suppress the rising panic, breathing slowly to steady myself. Mark walked into the room, noticing my distress. Our gazes locked, communicating in the silence we shared. With heavy heart, I explained the financial crisis. Mark's calm demeanor cracked, revealing untapped fears. We both sat in silence, processing the gravity of the situation. Our world seemed to shrink around us. As the sun set, we moved our discussion to the kitchen, determined to confront this storm together. Mark suggested potential solutions, a reassuring yet hesitant smile promising his unwavering support. In the warmth of our kitchen, we devised a plan, each step scribbled on paper like guiding stars. Despite the looming shadow of uncertainty, a fragile new determination took root between us. As the days passed, the traces of fear faded. Every envelope opened ushered us closer to resolution. Evenings spent revisiting our finances became rituals, nurturing a deeper bond forged through shared struggle. We found unexpected joy in small victories, the numbers slowly bending to our unwavering will. A shift in our mornings was palpable. Breakfast was now seasoned with optimism and playful banter. Mark's birthday finally arrived, a testament to our renewed hope. The celebration was a genuine delight this time. I watched Mark blow out his candles, feeling a new sense of peace I hadn't realized I needed. The financial hurdles, once daunting, became stepping stones in a path of growth neither of us anticipated. I felt our family stronger, more resilient, bound by truths once feared but now owned. The sky was a clear dome of blue, echoing the clarity within our home. We had conquered the storm. Mark and I sat in our cozy living room, the warm light of a lamp casting a soft glow. Despite our laughs over coffee, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. My heart raced as Mark took another call, his face slightly turned away. I tried to ignore the sickening churn in my stomach, telling myself it was nothing but work. As he ended the call, I offered him a smile, hoping he wouldn't notice the worry in my eyes. He returned it, his eyes twinkling almost too convincingly. I busied myself with dinner preparations, clinging to the normalcy, each chop of the vegetables a futile attempt to silence my gnawing doubts. Later that evening, as Mark and I watched a movie, I noticed his slight flinch when a character mentioned debts. It was a tiny crack, but it echoed loudly in my mind. I reassured myself, blaming my imagination. But the way Mark's muscles tensed and released told a different story, one I wasn't quite ready to confront. As the night wore on, the weight of my suspicions grew heavier. We lay side by side in bed, shadows from the streetlights forming bars across the ceiling. Just as sleep began to claim me, a notification glowed on Mark's phone. I hesitated, wondering if crossing that line meant no return. I turned away, choosing denial over conflict. As Mark shifted beside me, the pit in my stomach solidified, a silent testament to my growing fears. Morning light seeped through the curtains, bringing with it a fragile hope that maybe today would be different, lighter. But the shadows carried on. Another day, another call. Mark decided to take it outside, which stung more than it should have. It felt like an exclusion, a deliberate choice. I found myself reaching for his stack of unopened letters, curiosity and dread intertwining. My hands trembled at the threshold of discovery. I drew back, resisting the temptation to pry. The fear of shattering the fragile piece kept my hands tied in reluctant inaction. Later, while cleaning, I stumbled upon a poker chip lodged in the sofa cushions. I held it like a talisman, both damning and meaningless. That evening, I tucked the poker chip into a drawer. It felt like burying a secret, yet preserving it all the same. Our conversations grew strained, laughter replaced by loaded silences. Yet I feared breaking the question loose would crumble everything. One night, I found Mark staring at a bill, his expression hovering between defeat and determination. My heart contracted with empathy and something colder. He noticed me watching and offered a worn smile. We were two actors in an intensifying play, each pretending not to know our mutual performance. The days turned into a tense rhythm of routine, my restlessness growing beneath the surface like a storm awaiting release. I couldn't shake the feeling that my denial was thinning. One crisp morning, I resolved to face whatever Mark was hiding, for both our sakes. At dinner, I laid out the unopened envelopes, a silent challenge crossing the table. Mark paused, the fork hanging in the air. Silence draped over us like a heavy curtain until Mark sighed, resignation seeping into his features. He knew the time for pretending was over. Finally, Mark spoke, admitting debts from poker nights gone wrong. His voice was a soft, strained confession barely rising above the clatter of our world breaking. My heart ached for the strain that had worn him thin, yet the weight of the truth felt like a relief I hadn't known I needed. We talked for hours, unraveling the tangles of deceit. It was painful, but cathartic, like lancing a wound to let it heal. As dawn broke, we found ourselves side by side, exhausted but united. The road ahead was uncertain but visible, like fog lifting. Acknowledging the depths of his issues allowed us to begin mending, reconstructing trust with careful precision. Despite the challenges, I realized we could build a stronger foundation, free from the weight of hidden truths. I saw Mark change, his transparency a reflection of his commitment to repair what was broken. It was a beginning, not an end. We learned to balance, holding each other in vulnerability and strength. The past lingered but no longer dictated our future. I was standing in our living room when strangers barged in, their presence unsettling, like the rumble of an approaching storm. Their eyes probing, I felt the chill of their intrusion. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach as the party atmosphere shifted. Conversations turned into whispers, glances into curious stares. The air was thick with the weight of the unknown. Crossing the room with purpose, I reached Mark. His familiar face was marred with the weight of his secrets. My heart pounded in sync with every determined step. As I gripped Mark's arm, my voice was a taut wire between anger and desperation. "We need to talk," I said, each word a quiet command amidst the growing chaos. Mark flinched but didn't resist, tension swirling between us. We moved past curious eyes towards the echo of our bedroom where truth awaited. The soft click of the door closing behind us cut off the outside noise. We were alone, surrounded by the remnants of our shared life, now tainted with uncertainty. "What's going on, Mark?" I asked, my voice firm but trembling. The question hung between us like smoke, waiting to cloud everything. Mark hesitated, confidence shattered, his eyes weary and subdued. "I wanted to fix it," he began, the whisper of his voice barely carrying across the room. I listened as he confessed, his words unraveling like threads from a frayed tapestry. Betrayal stained the air, choking the trust I had once taken for granted. Walls felt like they were closing in as he spoke. The suffocating reality was wrapping itself around me, leaving nothing untouched by the shadows of deceit. Mark continued to explain, his words nothing more than muffled echoes now. My world was splintering, each lie a shattering blow against our foundation. Silence settled between us, a heavy pause. None of us spoke. Words seemed redundant now amidst the debris of broken trust. In a moment, clarity pierced through the fog. I realized the gravity of his gambling, debts making us strangers to each other in our own home. Reluctantly, I raised my gaze to meet his, searching for some fragment of truth amid the ruins of his confessions. Our eyes locked, a battlefield of emotions. The warmth of the room felt distant as we stood in silence, each trapped in our own labyrinth of thoughts and regrets. The party outside faded, irrelevance in its festivity. Eventually, Mark spoke again, his voice as fragile as the whispered confessions. "I never meant for it to go this far," he admitted, unable to mask his guilt anymore. My heart ached, but empathy wove through the cracks of my anger. "We should have faced this together," I said, longing for the partnership we had seemed to lose. There was a sense of defeat in his posture as he nodded, acknowledging the truth of my words. A shared responsibility for the debris lying at our feet. Despite the uncertainty, there was a glimmer of hope nestled within the despair, a fragile willingness to rebuild what had crumbled. Breaking the tension, I spoke again, my voice carrying a resolve I barely recognized. "We need to face this and move forward," I declared. His eyes met mine, gratitude mingling with unspoken promises. We stood in tandem, an alliance renewed, ready to tackle what lay beyond these walls. As we opened the door, the murmurs of the party reintroduced reality, a reminder of the consequences we were about to face. Each step back towards the party was heavy, reconciliation blending with the undercurrent of public scrutiny. Faces turned toward us, anticipatory and questioning. I took a deep breath, wrapping my arm around Mark's. We would face our friends together, our united front a shield against judgment. The room was filled with anticipatory silence, eyes watching us. Yet their probing couldn't diminish the solidarity we quietly rediscovered. A friend approached, questions lurking in her eyes. Her concern was palpable as she quietly asked, "Is everything okay?" I glanced at Mark before answering. We're working through it, I said, simplicity carrying the weight of our commitment to deal with these challenges. Mark squeezed my hand, gratitude reflected in his eyes. It was a small victory, a step towards healing amidst the chaos of the party. Amidst casual conversations, the mood gradually shifted. The night progressed with renewed understanding and silent support from those around us. As the party wound down, I realized this was far from over, but within the afterglow of determination, there was a shared belief that we'd emerge stronger. The festive room swirled around me. Colors seemed muted as people perched on edges of couches, their conversation a murmured drone. I felt exposed as Mark's confession rippled through the gathering. Mark's eyes were downcast, a portrait of guilt framed by the soft glow of the ceiling lights. He seemed small, like shadows were swallowing him, as he reached for an explanation that felt hollow. I felt my heart tighten, clenching into itself like a fist. My words came out sharp, the cruelty nearly tangible. It was as if my voice alone could cut through the false pretense of it all. The room fell silent, except for the echo of truth bouncing off the walls. Eyes darted towards me, faces grimaced as the party's mood shifted drastically from jubilant to grim. A chill pierced through me as I stumbled outside into the enveloping night. Stars were invisible behind looming clouds, the city's distant hum filling the void of my own racing thoughts. I wandered aimlessly, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I needed the streets to answer questions as my emotions stormed, each step matching the relentless beat of my racing heart. The cold air grounded me, a slap against my cheeks that demanded attention. How could Mark betray me so profoundly? The ache of disbelief weighed heavily upon my shoulders. Thoughts spiraled like leaves caught in a gust. Everything felt surreal, as if the world had tilted at a terrifying angle. Trust was broken, innocence shattered. The night was filled with silent accusations. I knew I couldn't return, couldn't face their pity again. And the once safe confines of my home now felt laced with betrayal. I craved escape, yet felt trapped by what once was. I lingered on the outskirts of the party, allowing the raw ache within me to guide my next steps. Nothing felt certain anymore. Reality's fabric had been irreversibly torn. Finally, amid my furious pacing, the phone buzzed, pulling me into uncertain reality. Messages lined the screen, a dozen attempts to reconcile the irreparable damage Mark had inflicted. Each attempt at reaching me felt like another painful jab. They were hollow attempts, urging forgiveness that wasn't ready to be given. A blend of hollow and relentless barraged my heart. Dawn tiptoed across the sky, bathing everything in fragile light. Exhausted but resolute, I stood apart from the past, considering which direction to face in the newly emerging day. I returned home finally, stepping inside the familiar yet transformed space. Everything felt tainted by betrayal, but the glimmers of morning offered a semblance of future clarity. With trembling hands, I gathered the traces left behind. Each item seemed charged with history, but I resolved to reclaim parts of life within the ruined confines of honesty. The echo of Mark's confession lingered like a faint ache, daring me to believe again. Around me lay remnants of a carefully woven lie, yet hope flickered through grieving doubt. I breathed deeply, drawing strength from the sunlight cascading through the curtains. My eyes swept across the room, each detail a silent promise to rise above his betrayal. A faint sound from the phone intruded. Mark's face on the screen demanded attention. His expression was pleading, trapped in digital silence as my chest tightened with unresolved tension. I allowed myself a brief confrontation with his image, searching for answers a screen could not provide. My mind wrestled with choice, but pride insisted on making peace with none. The effort to silence the past felt futile when every corner mirrored remembered heartaches. Yet through struggle, I embraced the gift of solitude, weaving possibilities from threadbare dreams. I replayed Mark's confession in my mind, dissecting its complexity. Anguish tangled with an almost indignant curiosity about his deception's genesis, compelling me to understand beyond its pain. Every word Mark spoke unraveled a picture once vivid in color, now shades of faded gray. If not love, what substance lay in the shared years? My heart ached to uncover roots of the rupture. I stood at the window as storm clouds swelled. A dream undone loomed over me, consuming the remnants of affection, yet I whispered resolve to embrace life beyond the darkest truths. A sudden resolve sparked. I didn't have to rebuild alone or understand every piece. Gentleness offered peace in companionship. A glimpse reawakening where comfort once seemed lost. A night's realization. Space for healing lay clear to bud. With fragile hope, I prepared pathways to solace, creating life anew upon disentangled narratives from forsaken love. As I wrote, two paths emerged, pain acknowledged, yet I must forge tomorrow with courage and relentless love, and the dichotomy of potential resonated within my evolving thoughts. Some days were darker than others. Nonetheless, deliberate construction had begun, each fragile step erecting possibilities. Shadows stretched behind as light guided forward. I stood amidst ruins of imagined love, surveying my world, clinging to undefined potential. Tomorrow seemed distant, yet each step revealed promise, demanding courage in every rhythm. A reflection emerged within the pool of unanswered mysteries, yet knowledge buds beyond deceptions. Embraced promises silent though compels wonder. What ignites new dreams after forgotten ones? One last breath captured everything, transforming into tomorrow echoed permission to thrive. With heart mending through each rhythmic pulse, I stepped into dimensions of vast potentiality. The weight of despair felt inescapable as I stood in the kitchen, staring at the unwashed dishes. Mark's betrayal loomed over every memory, shadowing my thoughts. Days blurred into one another with a monotonous cycle of uncertainty, each morning feeling like an echo of the last. I yearned for clarity, yet found none. I found solace in the innocence of our children, immersing myself in their playful laughter, a temporary balm to my ragged emotions. Our home thickened with unspoken questions, like cobwebs collecting in forgotten corners. Silence was louder than words, echoing in every room. Shared laughter was but a distant echo, replaced by a hollow ache that refused to fade. Even our happiest memories seemed tainted. Despite seeing the apologies in Mark's eyes, an echo of regret lingered within me. I wavered, contemplating forgiveness, but the pain was still there, alive. Friends and family contributed their versions of truth, adding to the confusion. Some gossiped, others judged, all unaware of my internal struggle. I flinched at unsolicited advice, feeling thinly veiled judgments rather than support. Each word sharpened my isolation. My sister suggested moving on, not realizing I was already adrift, grasping for light amidst the deceit's darkness. Mark attempted to bridge the chasm between us, his gestures genuine, yet unable to penetrate my fortress of sorrow and mistrust. I recalled the early days of our love, now so distant and unfamiliar. The purity of those memories felt shattered, fragments lost to betrayal. During late nights, alone in the darkened living room, the weight of solitude pressed heavily upon me. Every shadow felt like a remnant of the past. I watched our children sleep, their innocence a poignant reminder of what was at stake. I wrapped myself in their warmth, a shield against my fears. The mornings were the hardest, waking up to the painful reality, hoping for reassurance that never came. The void between us felt insurmountable. Even as days turned to weeks, I realized I had to confront my feelings. A decision had to be made, despite their painful implications. I finally gathered the courage to speak openly with Mark, my heart pounding as we faced each other, words waiting to bridge or break us. As Mark revealed his perspective, I saw the vulnerability hidden beneath his remorse, and a glimmer of the man I once loved. With heartache intertwined with hope, I realized not every silence meant surrender. We chose to start the dialogue step by step. Our conversations became frequent, sometimes painful, yet each bringing us closer to understanding. The murky waters were slowly clearing. Despite the progress, nights were still filled with doubt, dreams intertwined with fears, keeping me on edge, questioning our choices. I focused on rebuilding self-trust, finding strength in vulnerability, unraveling my own narrative, separate from Mark's shadows. I let friends know our path was uncertain but chosen. Their support became unconditional, a woven tapestry of understanding and patience. With hope rekindling between us, we began small acts of kindness, silently rebuilding trust, each gesture a stitch in our unraveling tapestry. We implemented a new routine, a blend of familiar and fresh, aiming to redefine our shared life, guided by lessons learned. I found unexpected joys in simple moments, watching the sunrise, sharing a quiet evening, learning to see past prior pain. Mark and I ventured on shared adventures, exploring paths once left behind. These journeys became new canvases for us to paint our story. The weight of despair began to lessen, replaced by resilience. Our shared life was slowly being reimagined, nurtured by honesty and growth. We learned to dance with the present, leaving past shadows behind. Each step invited forgiveness and newfound strength into our lives. Our children sensed the change, their joy reflecting our healed spirit. Their laughter became the anthem of our renewal. Together we forged a brighter future, defined by resilience, love, and the promise of new beginnings. The journey was our testament of hope. Mark's eyes caught mine across the dinner table, a silent plea trapped within their depth as the children's laughter created an oblivious bubble around us. I felt the weight of exhaustion settle between us, a shared burden from years of unresolved tension reflected in our tired glances. The simmering anger we had grown accustomed to felt different now, not as all-consuming, leaving a crack for a new understanding. As the evening wore on, I joined Mark in shifting our focus from the fray to the mundane task of clearing the table. For a brief moment as we worked side by side, the routine act transformed into a hopeful bridge bridging the gap. Mark's hands, resting momentarily, unveiled their story of toil and stress etched into every line and scar. With hesitation, I reached out, brushing my fingertips against Mark's hand, a silent question wrapped in vulnerability. Our eyes met with an unspoken query. Could this be a beginning, or simply another moment lost to familiarity? As the children laughed in the distance, their unaware joy created a backdrop for our silent conversation. I felt a quiet recognition of shared exhaustion, realizing that we were no longer just victims of our circumstances, but partners seeking a truce. It was as if the chaos of years past melted into a single question. Could we forge a path forward, together? The clarity of the moment, though fleeting, left a spark of hope, an invitation to rediscover and mend. Mark's response was wordless, but in the touch of his hand, I felt a reluctant acceptance, a willingness to try again. In that fleeting exchange, I realized we each held a fragment of the other's heart, despite the fractures. The dinner plates clinked softly as we stacked them, an unspoken rhythm of teamwork replacing silence. Our synchronized actions broke the silence paradoxically, creating a new language between us, defined by gestures and glances. With each clank of the dishes, I sensed a tentative rebuilding of trust as old barriers crumbled slowly. As the last dish was put away, there was a tangible shift, like the air itself had cleared, lighter, hopeful. Mark's gentle smile was unexpected, mirroring my tentative hope, an unspoken promise of better days. We knew the road ahead was uncertain, marred with past shadows, yet that moment felt like a promise to try, to heal. Leaving the kitchen, our footsteps echoed a newfound unity, each step an echo of understanding and shared resolve. Together, we joined the children, their laughter and anchor pulling us back to the present, to familial bonds. I sat beside Mark, our children's joyous voices casting a comforting net over us, anchoring our precarious hope. That evening, our shared gaze silently celebrated the potential of healing, acknowledging the work yet to come. As the night deepened, our hearts whispered promises of patience, of kindness, replacing anger with something more fragile yet stronger. I realized then, a quiet acceptance blooming in my chest, that we could perhaps reshape what was broken. With that fleeting moment, the possibility of rebuilding our life together flickered brighter, fueled by understanding and resilience. As children drew us back into their world, our small, tentative steps toward reconciliation solidified in shared laughter. With every laugh, fear and uncertainty faded, nudging us back to the essence of togetherness. And there it was, a gentle promise in the night, as fleeting as a whisper, yet as potent as a bond newly formed. As I stood in our shared bedroom, where love once thrived, I was overwhelmed by a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. I centered my gaze on Mark, wondering how we would navigate this. I could feel the weight of the room pressing down, filled with shadows of past happiness. Mark seemed smaller, more subdued, under the soft, muted glow of the lamp. Gathering courage, I spoke those first risky words, hinting at unresolved burdens. Mark merely nodded, his silence an odd form of agreement, like a shared secret. There was a quiet acceptance in his nod, as if sunlight was slowly peering through cracks, rendering the shadows less ominous. Hope mingled with tension, swirling in the air. My heart pounded as I prepared to delve deeper. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling but curious, craving the truth beneath the chaos. Mark hesitated, then began unraveling his reasons. Financial pressures, the twisting allure of gambling, his words resonating with pain and regret. Listening, my heart ached, recognizing the raw, human desperation in his voice. Shadows danced across the walls as he confessed, revealing wounds unhealed. Simultaneously, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. The truth was unnerving but necessary, slowly dismantling the fortress of resentment I'd built. With every truth Mark revealed, the air between us felt lighter. It wasn't blame or acceptance, it was understanding that softened the hurt. Finally, amidst this newfound clarity, I breathed a sigh of relief. It was time to confront and forgive, perhaps to start anew. Deciding to rebuild required courage. I knew it meant facing more trials, but the anger that had masked my vision was lifting, allowing a clearer path ahead. Mark and I stood closer, the looming chasm between us shrinking as understanding formed a bridge. Our home felt different now, a landscape reshaped by honesty. We began to talk about rebuilding, piece by piece. It was overwhelming but necessary, an uphill climb I was willing to face with him by my side. I understood now how Mark's choices, reckless as they were, arose from a place of fear and not malice. I too had mistakes to account for. Addressing my own part in our estrangement, I felt an unexpected strength. The blame had lost its grip. I owned my failings constructively. Each step towards resolution was laden with past hurt, yet our sincere efforts felt like a pact, binding us against all odds. The room, once heavy with unspoken grievances, seemed to breathe anew. It held our conversations, now emancipated from secrecy. Mark's confession, once a feared storm, had passed, leaving a sense of calm that whispered promises of growth and healing. We sat and mapped our future, a joint effort reflecting optimism. Each plan we scribbled was a lifeline extended from this moment of reparation. Reassessing our finances became a vital piece of the puzzle. We needed to restore trust, both in each other and in our shared responsibilities. Conversations turned constructive, filled with what next, rather than brooding over what went wrong. It was a refreshing shift. Facing the enormity of our rebuilding quest, I felt a tinge of fear and excitement. Could we truly start over? I chose hope over doubt. Evenings became our time of bonding, moments spent in shared silence or light chatter, symbols of our renewed connection. Facing Mark's eyes, I saw the gratitude in them reflected. It mirrored my own feelings, the shared relief at stepping into transparency. Together, we set firm boundaries about communication and financial management, cornerstones of our new relationship from the ground up. The bearing weights of our efforts could be felt in every small victory, each reaffirming our decision to confront and grow. I realized letting go was an ongoing process. Each day was an opportunity to choose forgiveness over resentment, renewal over stagnation. Forgiveness flowed faster than I expected, forming the core of our healing journey. It stitched together broken promises and abandoned dreams. Finally, the past loosened its harsh hold. In that unclenching, I found my personal peace, a long-lost version of our love rekindled. As dawn broke, it painted our room with a promise of what rebuilding meant. A life renewed, bonds stronger through trials overcome. In the quiet aftermath of our stormy night, I found myself alone in our dimly lit living room, the once vibrant space now awash in shadows of uncertainty. Days blurred as we grappled with financial chaos, our lives resembling a jigsaw of unpaid bills and wary phone calls, each conversation weighing heavily. Family gatherings turned into interrogations, skepticism in their eyes as they questioned our decisions, their concerns muffled by our silent pleas for understanding. Our marriage felt adrift, like a ship lost at sea, battered by relentless waves with no safe harbor in sight, leaving us both exhausted. Amidst the turbulence, closure appeared not as a grand finale, but as a gentle nudge towards healing, imperfect, yet hopeful for renewal. Counseling became our sanctuary, a space where raw honesty battled with hope, each session peeling away layers of hurt and resentment. In a pause during one session, Mark's voice quivered with uncertainty, asking, "You still here?" Signaling both fear and a plea. I crossed the room to stand by him, allowing vulnerability to guide our tentative journey, each step unfamiliar yet strangely liberating. We decided against giving up, choosing instead the hard path of honesty, hoping to rethread our lives intricately enough to hold us. With time, the bitter echoes of our past began to fade, nudged away by our shared resilience and moments of newfound understanding. Mark surprised me with his soft humor during a mundane breakfast, reminding me of our simple connection beyond this chaos. The weight of our financial turmoil seemed less daunting together, every solution discussed becoming a shared endeavor rather than my solitary burden. Family gatherings transformed. Skepticism was slowly replaced by cautious optimism as they witnessed our renewed commitment. Through counseling, our conversations deepened, shedding defenses in favor of raw and transformative communication. Our counselor encouraged us to create a future vision, sparking hesitant yet hopeful dreams of what could be. An evening walk turned into a reflection of our journey, a silent testament to resilience amidst the serene beauty of unfolding twilight. We spent weekends exploring unfamiliar parts of the city, weaving new memories into our story, bits of laughter echoing through the streets. Mark's supportive gestures, small yet significant, restored fragments of trust, a cornerstone we had nearly lost. As weeks turned to months, I noticed the subtle change in Mark's demeanor, his eyes reflecting a newfound peace and gratitude. Our strengthened bond became evident during an unexpected crisis, our teamwork seamless as we faced it together. Reconnecting with shared hobbies revived our spontaneous joy, such as painting on lazy afternoons, colors mixing into playful vibrancy. Evening talks turned philosophical, conversations enriched with empathy they hadn't possessed before, a sign of deeper connection. Mark's gentle promise to always try became our mutual creed, each repeated effort anchoring us amidst uncertainty. I reassured myself by journaling, pages chronicling our growth, emotions once stormy, now serene and reflective. Coping strategies from counseling were incorporated into daily life, small transformations nurturing larger harmony. Occasional setbacks tested our resolve, but these trials were turned to opportunities, further knitting our close fabric. We celebrated our newfound strength in simple joys, like dancing to old records, embracing freedom we had fought hard to secure. Gradually, the noise from our chaotic past faded to a whisper, leaving room for new aspirations and unspoken promises. Our journey towards renewal felt like spring after a long winter, each step warmer, inviting us to bloom into our rebuilt lives. With closure not as an end, but as a beginning, we embarked on this new chapter, hopeful and open as we turned the page together. As I stood in the quiet living room, I felt the weight of transformation. The house, once alien, felt like home again, even warmer and more welcoming. Mark, with tentative gestures, tried to rebuild trust. I observed him with cautious eyes, my heart unsure yet hopeful, allowing him the space to show sincerity. Every day felt like a new step forward, no longer a battle against old wounds. I embraced small victories in this journey of healing. Months passed, and my heart found a rhythm between remembering and forgiving. I felt an inner strength blooming quietly within. I became more outspoken, transforming from a quiet observer to the active narrator of my own life. This newfound voice felt empowering. Resilience became a friend, taught by tangled experiences in love's intricate dance. I embraced the complexity with newfound courage. Fear of shadows faded as I learned to navigate them with ease. I no longer shied away from darker moments, but embraced their lessons. Mark's birthday arrived, and the celebration prioritized family over opulence. It marked a shift in what we valued. In a moment of eye contact, Mark winked at me, playfully, where fear once lingered. It was a shared acknowledgement of healing. I recognized our promise in that wink, a future not spotless but truly shared. It felt like a poignant reminder of the journey we had embraced. Laughter returned to our home, gradually filling the spaces once haunted by silence. It was the sound of renewal and hope. Days cascaded, each holding the possibility of further healing and discovery. I marveled at the strength that grew from vulnerability. As our lives unfolded, I noticed a shift in focus, from merely surviving to truly living. It was a revelation and a relief. We built a fragile truce, but it was ours. a sign of reclaimed unity through patience and mutual understanding. I found joy in simple moments again, drinking tea, reading, feeling gratitude for small, everyday wonders. Mark's presence became less of a memory trigger and more a partner in emotional reconstruction. For now, it felt enough. As I opened up, I felt the burdens lessen, the shadows lifting gradually, vulnerability transformed from a foe to a cherished ally. Conversations once difficult became shared dialogues of understanding and mutual respect, adding depth to our rebuild. This version of me was unafraid to rewrite the past with new, hopeful stories, patterns woven with both scars and beauty. Mark's hand in mine during difficult moments anchored me. It symbolized a bond tested but resilient, still standing firm. Our laughter mirrored the sunlit sands, a gentle tide carrying us forward, igniting moments of joy anew. In our quiet moments, I saw love reshaping itself, layered and complex, yet profoundly simple in its essence. Together, we made peace with uncertainty and wore it like a badge of growth, gracefully embracing each imperfect day. Obstacles didn't vanish, but seemed smaller, growth shrinking shadows to manageable frames. I wasn't afraid of them anymore. We no longer walked alone. Our paths crossed purposefully, intent on discovering more about one another with open curiosity. Our journey taught me that understanding holds space for both love and change. It's an endless conversation worth nurturing. A quiet look from Mark no longer sent me spiraling. His gentle gaze meant comfort, not contention. I felt awakened to life's quiet joys. Treasured moments that before felt mundane had new vibrancy. We embraced imperfections with newfound grace, learning to respond to life with kindness where before there was fear. Ultimately, our story was one of transformation, sculpted by trials but defined by love, a beautiful rebirth sustained with patience.